Hi tutors, welcome back. We have measurement this week. Students started working with measurement last week with you when we were doing our perimeter unit, and they were able to measure some of the rectangles, and we'll be continuing on with our measurement this week. So students will get an opportunity to measure some items on a worksheet. They also will be measuring things in a game that you play at the very end of today's lesson. So the first thing that you want to do is kind of familiarize students with the ruler. Make sure that they understand that the beginning of the ruler is 0, even though we don't see a 0 on this ruler. Some rulers will say 0 and some won't, but understanding that the beginning of this ruler is a 0, and then understanding that the inches and how those red lines kind of help us. Okay, so we can see that the white is 1 inch, the red is 1 inch, the white is 1 inch, and so on. You can also compare it to the other side, the centimeters, and talk about how it's different, whether centimeters are larger or smaller than inches. Of course, centimeters are smaller. But having those conversations, really getting comfortable with the ruler itself will be important for today's lesson. One reason that I stress that 0 is because when these third graders get to fourth grade, they will have this ruler on a test. And you can see that the 0, they try to trick the students, and they have the 0 in away from the very end of the ruler. And so students really have to understand that 0 is where we start with our ruler and not necessarily always at the end. I won't give you this ruler today. It's something that the fourth grade teachers do spend some time on, so students will see it in fourth grade. So it's not necessary today, but just so that you understand why I'm telling you to stress the 0 being at the end of this ruler today. Okay. So the first thing that you'll do is ask students a few questions about measurement. How tall are you? What size shoe do you wear? Kind of just getting them used to the idea that we see measurement in a lot of different places. And then you'll jump into this worksheet here. This one is, you'll see the reteaching. This one students usually don't see in their classroom unless their teacher feels like they're not understanding measurement, and so then they need to go back and reteach something. So this paper students probably have not seen, however it will be very good for them because it does break it down very simply. This top piece you'll see is just directions. It kind of goes over the vocabulary and kind of gives them an idea of what measurement is. Gives them an example with the paperclip, how this paperclip is 1 1/4 inches. Okay, so what do I say? I'm going to round it to the nearest inch, so I'm going to go down to 1 inch. For your information, if my paperclip were 1 1/2, then we would go ahead and round up to 2. So anything half or greater, we round up to 2. Anything less than half, we round down to the lower inch. So for this first one, they just want the students to estimate each length first. So estimating the length of this stamp, you want students to say, okay, here's an inch, this is what an inch looks like. How many inches across do you think that this stamp is? Just the length. We don't care about the width right now or the height right now. We're just worried about the length. So hopefully they can say that it's about an inch. They might say it's about 5 inches. That's okay. Hopefully we'll be able to correct those misconceptions today with our rulers. So now we can see that it is actually 1 inch. Then we can move on to our toothpick. How big do we think our toothpick is? Write that down, and then, okay, now we can see that it actually is 2 inches. So make sure that the estimating is there. The glue stick is the only tricky one on this page, and it is 3 1/4 inches, and so of course we will round it down to 3 inches. Okay, then after you finish the reteaching, then you can go into the practice page. Now this page students may have actually seen in their classes depending on if their teacher has gotten to this unit yet. If they've already seen it and they say, I've already done this paper, that's okay. Tell them that they're going to show you what they know about the paper since they've already done it before, and they can bring that to the table today. So the first one right off the bat is 2 1/2 inches. So students have to decide, okay, 2 1/2, what am I supposed to do? I have to go up to 3 inches. Anything half or greater will round up. There are a few word problems. Take your time with those because those words really do trick them. Help them understand what the question is asking in those. Okay. Lastly, we have the enrichment piece. A lot of times students don't see this one because it's saved as an after piece. After they have mastered the concept, then the teacher will pull these resources. So this one, it's meant to be challenging, and a lot of times students will want to just look and not actually measure, and they're set up so that they look kind of optical illusions so that students will guess the wrong answer. So measurement is very important here, actually measuring each piece and deciding which one is right. I would encourage you to have students write the actual length next to each one. And instead of doing the fraction, like this one would be 3/4 of an inch, you could do less than 1 inch. You could just write the words less than 1 inch. They do know fractions, so if you feel like your students are capable of doing 3/4 of an inch, that's great too. Okay, so enrichment is that. Then you're on to the game, and the game is very fun this week. I'm saving it till last so that hopefully we can get our best thinking done before we begin. So I do have rules in your packet. You can take a look at those, and it kind of sets up how to get the students started on it. But all they will need is a array block, we call them, and they'll be using them, a pattern block, and they will be using them to blow them across the table. So if I set up my ruler like this, I can go ahead and put my ruler at the end so that my 0 starts at the beginning line wherever my pattern block is. So here's my ruler, and I can have a couple practice rounds. You'll read in the directions. You can have 2 practice blows, and then when you're ready you can say this is my final try. So for example, students will have 1 blow. There's the blow. Then I can see that my pattern block went just over 4.5, so I can go ahead and round mine up to 5. So my first pattern block blow was a 5. Now, what are we going to do with that information? We need to write it down, and you're going to be making some data like this. So I gave some examples here, and at the bottom of it, I created this. So have the conversation with students. Okay, well, how are we going to track this data? This is what we're going to be doing. Everybody's going to get 3 different chances to blow their pattern block. So for example, I got 6, 10, and 0 on mine. And so how are we going to set up this data? How are we going to get our bar graph to work for that? You can tell them that we're going to use a bar graph, but you want them to be able to come up with these numbers on the side. Okay, this is how many inches, and you want to label that. Inches that the pattern block went. And then these are the students at my table. So Molly, Albert, and Mike, each one of us get 3 different data points for each one of our pattern blocks that we blew across the table, and then we're going to go ahead and compare all that data. This will take you a while, and students will want to keep doing the blowing the blocks, so really get them to focus on the data. And it's fine to let them go ahead and have their fun, of course, but then try to get them back into the data and really understanding the data and making that analysis of whose data is higher and all those kinds of things, and understanding the labels. So a fun little piece at the end of today's exercise. At the end, of course, you always want to have some closure, so talk to students, okay, well, where are we going to see measurement in the real world, and what types of measurement do you think are important? What kinds of measurement did you use today? Of course, we used a lot of inches today, and those kinds of things. So thank you as always.